Hi, my name is Karina Akidal. I'm the managing editor of Canadian Auto Dealer. I'm here with John Kiser from Ipsos, who is going to kind of give us a bit of an overview of the recent findings of an Ipsos survey and what's going on with consumers, some of the trends, what their preferences are, their shopping, and also what automotive dealers should be aware of and where they can kind of move forward and implement more measures or actions to help them as they get through this difficult crisis, but as well as in the recovery period. So on to you, John.
Great. So thank you for the opportunity to share and showcase what we've learned. We did learn, I guess we'd say a bit of good news is that despite of the lockdown, and we did the survey is the middle of April, we've learned that there is some optimism within the US market in particular relative to some other regions around the world. And that is there's an interest of buying a vehicle specifically, whereas when we compare and look at like Euro 5 or even Brazil, they're not as likely to buy in the near term. They're a little bit more conservative. And we also compared it against China. In China, they're about a month ahead of us in the recovery. And ultimately, they're a little bit more positive as relates to their intention to purchase a vehicle. And what we learned is what's the reasons for this? It's like what's causing this kind of behavior? And despite what we call the headwinds of the economy and the uncertainty, it's really is they want the protection and the safety that a vehicle can provide for them. Whereas they have uncertainty if they're using public transportation or if they're utilizing, say, ride hailing or even taxis, they're unsure. But having your own vehicle enables that protection and enables them to, I guess you could just say, control of that situation for them. So that part is good and it's ultimately driving it. Obviously, as we go through this recovery, we'll see what transpires. We have also heard some good news coming out of China. Is that those sales have picked up. So our stated data is actually turning into some reality. We're seeing that from China, and we expect to be starting to see that coming from the US as well on what would transpire. But a couple of key points that we would want to highlight that we learned is that can help, I guess you could say, realize these sales immediately is this idea of what protocols or steps are being taken into action at the local dealer. We learned in the US market is that this idea that 8 out of 10 consumers are concerned about COVID-19 and taking precautions on when they go out and shop. The one thing is that they've learned and expressed is this idea that only about 1/3 of consumers in the US are even aware of what precautions are being taken at the local dealer as relates to utilizing for service and or purchase. And so there's a real opportunity to make them aware so they can feel more comfortable to come and actually purchase. And that is, essentially what precautions are taken into place as well as how to even make a vehicle purchase. How would that even work in this new normal, if you will, or in this new world that we're going to be living in. So as long as that's being taken into place and being aware, then there is, like I say, that opportunity to get those, those sales. We also learned from our study is that there is this idea of these people who are planning to purchase is that they have this openness to be buying virtually or buying online. They don't necessarily have to go to the dealer to make this purchase. They are very willing to just do it all online and then ultimately have those vehicle just delivered to their house once they make the purchase. And then prior to that, if they are going through a test drive, they're very comfortable having that come to the house. This is a totally new behavior, but ultimately it is something that the consumers are open to. But it just presents a potential challenge of who does this, who delivers this, and who acts on this. And this is something that I think there's opportunities for the auto manufacturers to partner with the dealers to enable this to go well, meaning going from purchasing and finding it online and then ultimately delivering it locally. And I believe that's where the dealer is integral into this process because they're on the boots on the ground, if you will, working with the the actual buyer and the consumer, and that's where they would get the service. So having this partnership would certainly be helpful as we go through this recovery and ultimately how we go through this essential transition, if you will. But there is, like I say, a lot of good information that we've learned, and I believe it is something that can certainly be acted on to help with the recovery as we go through this.
Now, in terms of digital, so more of it's going online, do you see this as a very dramatic shift? And do you see it go, how long actually do you see this going on for? Is this the new normal moving forward, or is just the recovery period and then maybe things will stabilize a bit differently?
Sure. No, that's a very good question. I mean, of course, we would see each person has a sense of what they're comfortable with or not comfortable with. So we think this behavior will maintain. It won't be everybody, it'll be a portion of people. But to appeal to those who aren't comfortable to go to the dealer because of their own protection and safety, to make this, call it alternative purchase available would be advantageous so that we can reach all of the potential buyers. So I believe that it'll be both. It won't be a flip entirely to all online, and it won't go all the way back to everything being purchased in person, if you will. I think it would be both that would transpire going forward.
And so dealers will have to, I guess, invest a little bit more and more as the time goes, even though they're kind of in the middle of the pandemic and recovery will be a bit hard for them. But do you have any advice that you can offer automotive retailers in North America as they work through this difficult period?
Yeah, and I think it's a matter of, I guess I could say, definitely working with the audio manufacturer as it relates to is how we can do this purchasing virtually, because we learned from our consumer data, what we have from the US, that is who do they prefer to get this from to make this purchase, right? It's about half of them would prefer to get it from the local dealer, but a third would prefer to get it from the audio manufacturer to be able to make this actual purchase. So this idea of doing it together makes a lot of sense so that the consumer gets a unified experience from a brand across, and I know from Canada across the different provinces, so that it's not inconsistent, but also this opportunity of adjusting, I guess, your service model. So this idea that this investment that you frame. So while you're partnering with how to make it work, this other idea is how do you act on it? And it's this idea of the service side. And that to me is about a network of drivers, this network of people to be able to reach to your community. Of course, you would want to prioritize where most of the population is to be able to provide the service to them, to be able to deliver vehicles for test drives and or for purchase. They're actually making the vehicle delivery. So there's that type of investment that you would want to seek out about how to navigate that best. But I believe that's where the priority should be, is how to make the service portion work effectively with the online so that it's a comfortable experience for the consumer.
That's perfect. Well, there's some good advice for dealers, hoping that they take this into consideration as they move forward through the pandemic and again to recovery. Thank you, John, so much for taking the time to do this interview. And I wish you and your family good health and safety during this period, and hope you can all get through it safe and sane.
Yeah. No, thank you. Thank you for the opportunity. And I also would say the same, is as we get through this recovery together, it's a matter of us all doing things a little differently, but yet helping the consumers overall through this process. So I look forward to it.